All right, we're live. Hey everybody, Nikki Burnett here, Taste Life Nutrition, and Gabrielle Grandel, the amazing
Hello.
health coach, medicine health coach. So
Yeah.
today's Functional Friday, and we have a really interesting, what we find to be a really interesting topic that we want to discuss. And something, Gabrielle, that you said when you posted on this is we want everybody really to come to this with an open mind. And you know, we do these Facebook Lives to bring as much good information to you as we can, based on the data that we know to be good data. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Gabrielle?
Yeah, that's true. We're asking for open mind, open heart. You know, our goal is to just share, like you said, Nikki, the information that we find so that we can provide informed consent for all of us. And informed consent is knowing both sides of the coin, the ups and the downs of what's happening. And we feel like there is not all of the information that we're coming across is not being made available readily to the masses. And so we wanted to share some things that we found. We want to make sure that you know that we are not anti anything. We are pro safety and pro science and pro health freedom and informed consent. So today we're because of the censorship tactics that are alive and well, we are going to try our best to say V when we're talking about that word, to try in hopes that we don't get flagged. But
yeah, everything's getting flagged these days, and so we feel it's necessary to try to get the information out there. So yeah, we're just going to hopefully say V. And then, you know, we also want to have a little bit of fun with it. If this is not that it's a fun topic, but you know, we always want to try to bring in a little bit of fun if we can. What were you going to say?
Just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that this is not medical advice and that this is for education purposes only, and to just to share what we know, because we know that we are better together.
Yeah. So I think we have kind of an outline of how we believe this will kind of help us move through the conversation and give you information, but also kind of stay on target. There are lots of resources. I think one of the things that I would like to say too is there are browsers, aren't they browsers that are also censoring information? And one of the things that I would like to put out there is when we get our information, me specifically, I don't know about you, Gabrielle, I use DuckDuckGo. And so I just want to put out there for anybody who is looking to search, so you know you're getting the information that you want, I would tell you to use DuckDuckGo instead of any of the other search engines. But you know, first we want to talk a little bit about the V and how they're created, and then, you know, what makes them unique. And, you know, some of them we know work. I mean, they have a history of, you know, having, I think, some benefit. And then they also have a history of not having benefit and maybe creating more harm, particularly with some of the ingredients that are included. But, you know, first off, you know, the original ones are created through a type of live or dead virus or bacteria. And those are the ones that we know we have the most research on, the most experience with. And, you know, again, knowing some of them do a great job and some of them don't. So I don't know, you know, and the intent is to elicit an immune response, so the body is able to recognize whatever the V is, or whatever the problem is, right? Whatever the disease is, so the body recognizes it and is able to fight it, right?
Yeah. And oftentimes my understanding is whenever it's a dead virus that they use or a dead bacteria, it doesn't often elicit enough of a response by the immune system. So they add adjuvants, such as aluminum, that will stimulate the immune system, but also creates other downstream effects. And then we know that there are aborted fetal cells of both humans and animals in some of these different bees out there. And the whole idea is good in theory to create something that can try and simulate what the immune system can do on its own, right? But what if there were other ways to help boost your immune system to fight off whatever you came in contact with? And we're here to tell you that there are a lot of ways to do that. But the idea was to try to create a product that would help with this, help in this way. And then these are some of the ways that they've tried to accomplish that.
Yeah. And I think I want to add on to the potential toxicity of these things. We have what we know is, aluminum. Aluminum is toxic. And I think that the levels are over what your typical safety levels are, which is a problem, in my opinion. But there are also, in some of them, not in all of them, but there are preservatives with that, some of the preservatives are mercury. We know how toxic mercury is. And what I find interesting, if we take that and break that down a little bit, there are, we have specific genotypes. One is specifically ApoE4. It's apolipoprotein E4. Apolipoprotein 4. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I'm forgetting what I'm talking about here. Anyway, that genotype doesn't do a great job of detoxifying mercury. So what can happen is mercury for those people. I'm one of those people. Gabrielle, I think you're one of those people as well. Yeah, we don't have the ability to detoxify it well, so it sits in tissues, particularly brain tissue. And so that's one of the things that they're finding is with those who have Alzheimer's, they have elevated levels of mercury and they're unable to, they've been unable to detoxify it, whether it's from, something like a V or other sources, you can get it in other sources. Whether it's, our fillings, they have mercury in our fillings, the silver fillings, and they're still using those, which kind of amazes me. But, they had them in the light bulbs for a while, which made me just angry because we broke one time. And, how toxic then was my environment? And me being an ApoE4, is that going to create a problem for me later on? So, interestingly, a little bit off topic, we can test for mercury levels. And so that's an important point, is to know that you can be tested for it and you can detoxify from it. But understanding that these things, have the potential for some people, maybe a lot of people, to create a problem, like you said, those downstream effects that that we don't always know about.
Totally. Yeah. And, and for everybody, the heavy metals stay in your system for a long time. It's just some of us are even more challenged at getting rid of them. Right. And there's even, ingredients like polysorbate 80 in some of these vaccines that help to open the blood-brain barrier to allow for these metals to come across. I'm sorry. Yes, B. Thank you. So we knew we would forget, but we're going to try. So I think that's important to note too. And our bodies have adapted over time and evolved to be able to detoxify things that are ingested, as long as we have what we need to be able to do that. They have not been evolved to be able to detoxify things that are injected into the muscle, into the bloodstream. That's a very different scenario, just to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So
another interesting point that I had you and I talked about, last week was, one of the things that I do is I work with dogs. And so there are functional labs that we can do for dogs in order to see what their nutrient levels are and if they have any toxicities as well. And what they're finding is these dogs that have, a regular V schedule, as most do, they have them when they're young and then they have them yearly, which I don't agree with. But they're finding these toxic levels of mercury and other things in the dogs. And I just find that to be a huge issue. And it's a real burden on the immune system.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, I think the heavy metals are definitely an issue amongst a lot of different species because of our environment, and these interventions being one of the main culprits, it seems. So the question is then, why are children, mandated to have this massive amounts of these things to be able to go to school? We wanted to touch on that, the current schedule of these V's. And so they've tripled since the 70s and 80s. So I just wanted to share a couple stats on that. So tripled. Yeah. Why? So 23 doses of 7 vaccines is what it used to be, which is still a huge amount. It's 23 doses of 7 vaccines from birth to 18 years old. Currently, it is 69 doses of 16 V's from birth to 18 years old. 69 doses of 16 different kinds. So just let that sink in for just a moment.
It just seems
it's absurd.
I don't know. Is that the definition of insanity? Maybe.
I wonder, again, where is the evidence that folks that are getting these V's are establishing any kind of immunity versus those that are not getting these, right? Why has the government or any agency refused to do a simple, cheap study that would compare immune response and immunity between those two populations? And I think the answer is because they would find that those without the V's might have just as strong of immunity, if not more so, than those with. But regardless, we don't know that answer because they refuse to do those studies. And
it's an interesting point, though.
You want to talk a little bit about
Sorry,
the health?
were you? I wasn't trying to interrupt you. I was just. I think.
No, it's okay. I think we're getting a little delay, so it's hard.
I think so too. Yeah. Sorry about that. So yeah, there are, and I know that you have some points that you want to make, but it is, to start that, this part of the discussion, an interesting point is as these schedules have increased in amount and in, frequency, I guess, you can, so you can watch the rise of these schedules. And at the same time, we can watch the fall or the decline of our health as a society, which again, is super interesting. And so Gabrielle, you have a couple of stats that you found that I just find amazing and super unnerving.
Yeah, it's really disheartening. So 1 in 6, this is for children. We're seeing an epidemic of chronic disease and disability with kids. And so it's 1 in 6 learning disabled, 1 in 9 with asthma, 1 in 50 with autism, which if we stay the course, they say 1 in 2 by 2030. 1 in every 2 children by 2030 is going to have autism if we stay this course. And then 30% of children with mental illness. currently. You know, it's just heartbreaking to see. And, you know, I don't think anyone can deny the amount of exposure that these children have had to these Vs. There is a correlation here, whether it's causation or not.
Yeah.
You know, we're still figuring out, but seems to be leaning that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, you know, I want to make the statement again, in case you didn't see this in the beginning, that we're not anti-V, right? This is not, we're not here to bash it. We're not here to, create problems and to be conspiracy theorists, but we are here to have the discussion and to talk about what the data is showing. And that's really what it is. And so I think an important point to make is we don't think that they create a problem, the V's create a problem in all people all the time. But what we don't understand is what we know is we're all unique genetically, we're unique, our environment, our health status, everything about individuals, we're unique. And how we react to these incidences, you know, I think are also unique. And so if we have a V, one person may not react at all. Actually, we don't know what's going on inside the body, right? But it's not an immediate outward expression of whatever the problem is, where for others, the damage is done. And within sometimes days or less, you know, there is an issue. There is a lot of science showing that there's a healthy child or a healthy person, and then very quickly after they're not. And it could be after, you know, could be that they have there's just that one. So they're going through the schedule and there's the straw that broke the camel's back kind of situation.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point to make, is it's all about bioindividuality. Everybody is unique. Everybody is going to handle things differently. And so the idea then to be, if you're going to produce a product, that you then test it on different populations of people with different conditions, and that's not happening, but it needs to be, so that we can see how everyone will respond, right? Because like you said, sometimes it'll be effective, and then other times it won't be. But we're also concerned about long-term effects, and what's, you know, why is there not any cumulative research being done, right? Or, you know, research being done on cumulative effects of this increase in the V's. And then this new V that's on the horizon that we've been all hearing about, right? Which is this mRNA version. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Technology. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was looking into it a little bit, and it's new technology for the way it's being used now. It's been used in the mRNA V's have been used in oncology, and interestingly it's shown some good things in oncology. You know, I don't want to get into it too much because I don't think that it really matters. But the fact is, it's working on a different part of the immune system. So it's working on T cells, where when we're looking at, you know, the disease that we're dealing with today, we'll call it CV, the V and the CV, then, you know, those is a different part of the immune system, which is B cells. So that's where we don't have the science, is that part of the immune system. And the science, we don't have much science on it anyway, you know, no matter whether it's oncology or not. And so, you know, when we're talking about, you know, mRNA, this is, you know, it's messenger RNA. And so this is, you know, part of our genetic code. And so, you know, the question then arises, you know, and so, well, so the point of it is to create a new protein in every cell. So it's this messenger that's telling our cells, goes in, tells every cell to create a new protein. What is this doing? And what is it going to do in a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? What effect is it going to have? And are we going to be able to track it? Is it going to be great? Or are we going to sit here and go, holy smokes, what have we done?
Yeah, no one knows. And when you start getting in there in the genome, you know, there's a lot of risk at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so that's even more concerning that these are usually, you know, should take at least 5 to 10 years, which oftentimes is still not enough, you know, time, in my opinion. But they usually take that long to come out onto the market, and here we are in less than a year with a type of a V that's never been brought to market before, with a type of technology that's never been used before. And then a lot of talks about having to take this to be able to do the things that you do in your life. And so that's
the scary thing.
Concerning.
I mean, if we actually, if this becomes mandated, I can't even, I just can't even, I can't even imagine. That's really scary.
It is. And I think that we just don't want to be, we want to keep our eyes open, because look what they're already doing and have done. They've tripled the schedule for kids, you know, over these years. And we know we're going to talk a little bit about some of the harm that's come from that. So if they're willing to do those types of things to youth and the children, I'm not sure that I completely trust that they have all of our best interest in mind.
Yeah, agreed.
You know,
there's a point that I was going to make, and it was about the kids, and now I can't remember what it was. So.
Okay. I mean, the other day you were talking about heavy metals and some of the side effects that people will have, and they don't necessarily tie it to the V's. Is that what you were thinking?
Mm-hmm. No, it was something else. I can't remember what it was. I know what it was, actually. Sorry. It was, you know, the fact that, and I'm probably a little bit ahead, but I think that since we're talking about, you know, the potential of it being mandated, that's what they did, or that's what they were trying to do in Denmark, right? And what they do, they stood up for, was it 9 days?
Yeah.
To fight it?
Right. Yeah, they were going to mandate a V there in Denmark, and they all gathered together for 9 days and banged on pots and pans all day and all night until they killed that bill. You know, because the public stood up and said, no, we're not going to do that. You know,
yeah. And so that's the thing is, you know, we want you to we should have the choice. For those who feel that they need it and it's necessary, then that's what you do. So we're not telling you no, but we are saying that there should be a choice. And, you know, I don't know what's going to come, if they're going to try to do that here or not. I don't know. I think there's talk of it, but will it really happen? Not sure. But, you know, whether it's with the new one or any of these other ones, it should be a choice. And I think it's really important that we stand up for our freedoms.
Yeah, all medical procedures and interventions should be a choice. The Patient's Bill of Rights states that. Mm-hmm. You know, so so that's part of our, you know, again, that's our goal, is not to coerce anybody into doing anything that they don't feel comfortable doing, but just to share the information so that you can make an informed decision. And so you want to come back to some of the safety stuff that we were kind of talking about in terms of the fact that there's never been any double-blind placebo studies done on any of the Vs. They, from my understanding, there's been fewer than 40 studies done total on the CDC schedule, which is nuts to me. And like we kind of briefly touched on, no one's studying the cumulative effects of these things. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about something else that is interesting, because there is injury and there is death that is happening as a result of these things. And so much so that there is a program called the National Vaccine or National V Injury Compensation Program. And just to tell you a little bit of history about that. So back in the day when these V manufacturers were making these things, they were getting sued. And so they came to Congress to lobby to Congress to say, we're not going to make these anymore because we're not making enough of a profit. And so we're gonna have to stop doing that. And then Congress said, no, we'll go ahead and give you liability. We'll go ahead and indemnify you legally so that you're not responsible for these things. And so that was in 1986, and they developed that act, the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. And so what happens is that if your child or yourself is injured by a V, then you would go to court, to V court, to fight this. And they have paid out so far close to $5 billion. I believe it's about $4.8 billion at this point for injury and death that's associated. Mind you, you can only get up to $250,000 max payout from them. One case can. So if your child dies, they're only going to give you $250,000 maximum. But it's also important to know that the $4.8 billion that have been paid out by this program is based on only 1% of those injuries being reported. There's a program called the VAERS program, and physicians are supposed to report to the VAERS program, which stands for Vaccine Adverse Injury. What is it, Nikki? Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System. Okay, so they're supposed to. There you go. Yeah, they're supposed to report to that, but we know that a lot of physicians don't do that, and only about 1% of them report. So, so I think that's huge to understand. And the other piece that gets under my skin is that where they're getting that money to pay out the people that are injured is through an excise tax. So when you go get the V, for example, let's say you got an influenza V, it would be 75 cents that would be taxed on that one V, because it's fighting, supposed to be fighting one thing or preventing one thing. Whereas if it was the MMR V, it's three different things that it's preventing. So then it's $2.25 for that tax. So 75 cents per thing that it's supposed to prevent. But so as parents, when you're going in and taking your children in to get this schedule that you have to have so they can have an education, you're being taxed, right? So all of that's going to the pot, and then that's what's being paid out to these people that are injured. So never does the government or the manufacturers or anybody ever have to pay anything. It's all on us to take care of that.
It's again goes back to, is this just insanity? I mean, so those who are injured actually are just getting some of their money back.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's another way to look at it. Yeah, and
it's just
right.
It's crazy.
And if it doesn't come out like it's a cash pay, again, it comes out through your insurance, but everybody's paying is the point.
Yeah.
All of the population. And I think that's
so
nuts.
interestingly, yeah, it's totally nuts. Interestingly, on that note, we talked, so, Gabrielle and I are nutritionists, and, one of the things that, the things that we know well, I'm stumbling over my words, but doctors are not trained in nutrition. They get very little training in nutrition. So there's not a deep understanding, unless of course that's the direction that they want to go and it's their choice. So there's not a true deep understanding of nutrition, when they go to medical school. I'll give you an example that when my mother was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, she went to her endocrinologist. Her endocrinologist told her that food had nothing to do with her Hashimoto's, and food can't help her Hashimoto's, and they just have to wait for her thyroid to give out, and then they'll take it out. And I just went,
No.
and this is an extremely educated person, right? And so that's a real life example, and it happens all the time.
Right.
The reason I say that is because it's the same with the V. They don't get education on the V. They are told what to give and when to give it. And that's what they know. So there's really no education on it. And interestingly, also, there are a lot of doctors who won't give their kids V's, but they'll give everybody else's kids V's. But they realize that there's a potential problem with it. They also, there are courses for these doctors that show them how to persuade people to get their V's. So that includes for the pediatrics. It also includes for now the new V. So people, they're learning, there's a course on how to persuade people to do this. So I think that's an important point to understand. And just, sorry about the dogs. At my door. Anyway, but it just floors me, and I find it to be quite deceptive, actually. Sorry.
Yeah, the World Health Organization said recently that be hesitant parents were were one of the third highest health risks of the public is the parents that were hesitant. And so you're right, they want to get in on the conversation because they don't want those things.
Give me,
you want to
happen?
Okay.
Sorry. Carry on.
Okay.
Hey. It's just some salesperson. I'm like, dude, go away. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's deceptive too. And that Johns Hopkins has a whole think tank dedicated to different strategies of how to convince folks, to take this V from different angles of psychology. Why are we investing and paying a whole group of individuals to do this? What's the incentive here?
Yeah, it's a great question. There are a lot of really interesting things that we don't have answers to, that we should be asking the questions.
Yep. And I know there's a lot of talk about, promoting this so that we can get to 75 or 85% of the population, is the talk. But there is such a thing as herd immunity. And we won't get into that too much today, but there are other ways to achieve this and to move forward. But why all the effort to try and persuade people? And we just wanted to give another side of the coin. I want to talk about a couple of sites that you can also look at Anybody that's interested, nvic.org is a great site. ican.org, so ICAN. And then you can also look at online on different social media posts, and also you can buy a series on the truth about V's. They have a lot of really good information there as well. And then V is for the word VACCINE. That's another website too. V is for VACCINE.com. Yeah. So just, we wanted to share that, and just remember, you know, what was possible in Denmark and what's been possible in other places is totally possible here too. We just have to educate ourselves and come together, you know, to make an informed decision. And we're hoping that that's what we helped shed some light on today.
Yeah, agreed. And you know, we are open to discussion. We're also open to opinions, but we all, what the opinions that we're open to are opinions based in the science and in the data. So there's a lot of emotion around this, and I get that. But our goal is to bring you science and data and resources. And so we ask that if there is a discussion, which is great, that you do the same. So, but we, you know, our goal is information. It truly is good information. Yeah. So I think that's it. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, information and empowerment of your body and the power that you hold, you know, through your choices. So so you can find me at livingwelldallas.com or online, Gabrielle Grandel, on all the platforms, including YouTube. I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel. I do free 15-minute phone calls if you'd like to see if it's a good fit to work together, or if I can help provide some information to help you with your health journey. Phone number is 972-930-0260.
Perfect. And Nikki Burnett, Taste Life Nutrition. All of the social media is Taste Life Nutrition. I have a free assessment on the website. If you want to fill that out, then I'll reach out to you personally, and we can talk about anything that you might have going on that maybe you have questions about. And yeah, so I also said this earlier, but I work with the pups, with dogs. So I teach people how to feed real raw food, and have a Facebook Live called Real Raw Health every Thursday. So Gabrielle and I do this. Well, so, and that's a good point. So we were doing this every Friday, every first Friday. There's a lot to this, and we're going to, as long as we are able, we're going to continue this conversation, because there's a lot more than what we've given today. So we are going, I don't know that we're necessarily going to have a schedule. It's going to be on Fridays for sure, same time. But are we going, it might be every week, it might be every other week. It kind of depends on how often we're able to do it, because if, you know, it would take us, I don't know, years if we actually just did it once a month. So we don't want to do that. So just keep a lookout for us. We'll continue to let you know when we're gonna, you know, which Friday it's going to be, and post about it and that kind of thing. So we hope that you'll join us, and hope that you join the conversation, and hope that you get something out of it. And we'll just see you for the next Functional Friday.
Yeah, thanks guys for tuning in, and share with us, what you want to learn about. And thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Take care.
Okay. See y'all.